I got no reaction. You know how I am here. Whatever you're into, man, there's no muzzles here.
Is this booking more about Tony Ferguson and where he is in his career?
He's a bit of a delusional guy.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside the Cage, where we bring you the latest and exciting updates of UFC. First, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Dana White's unexpected support for Bryce Mitchell's Cage Bible Act. There was a bit of buzz about Bryce Mitchell bringing a Bible into the octagon after UFC Vegas 79. Trust me, man, that post-fight interview was something different. And guess what? A lot of fans were scratching their heads, wondering why Dana White and the UFC would allow that. Well, recently, Dana White was asked about it after the Contender Series on Tuesday, and he didn't seem to have any problem with it at all.
I got no reaction. You know how I am here. Whatever you're into, man, there's no muzzles here. There's no, whoever you are, whatever you believe, whatever you think. We've heard it all, seen it all, and, well, we think we have. Well, who knows what's next? But, this is one of those places where you say what you feel and you say what you want, and it's all good with me.
Dana White said about Bryce Mitchell, this isn't the first time Dana White has talked about not putting limits on what people say, especially when it comes to fighters. He's always made it pretty clear that fighters can express their opinions, whether he agrees with them or not. Now, speaking of Bryce Mitchell, despite that kind of odd speech he gave after his fight at UFC Vegas 79, he had a pretty solid performance. It's worth noting that this was his first fight since he got dominated by Ilia Topuria back in December. Remember that? He even hinted at retiring after that loss. But yes, he's now sitting at 16-1 as a pro and 7-1 in the UFC. Quite impressive, right? Cormier gives his unfiltered response to Tony Ferguson's fight at UFC 296. UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier, a guy who knows a thing or two about fighting, he's got an interesting take on this upcoming Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Pimblett bout at UFC 296 in December. But on the other side, Cormier doesn't think it's that simple. Eventually, he believes Tony Ferguson has fought too many big names and been in the game for too long to just suggest he doesn't stand a chance against Pimblett. And it's hard to argue with a guy like Cormier. In fact, on the debut episode of his new YouTube series, Cormier's Corner, he expressed his surprise that Tony Ferguson is even planning on stepping inside the octagon again after that lopsided loss to Bobby Green in July. It's a controversial contest for sure, and fight fans are buzzing about it.
After the last fight against Bobby Green, I was of the belief that he had probably reached the end of the road. Now, we might not have seen Tony Ferguson anymore. But lo and behold, in December, one of the biggest fights of the year, Tony Ferguson's next fight just got announced. He's going to be fighting Paddy Pimblett at the UFC pay-per-view. Last time we saw Paddy, he was in a very controversial decision, got the victory, but it seemed as though, whereas everything went right for Paddy in the beginning, the fans started to turn on him. So my question to y'all is this. Is this booking more about Tony Ferguson and where he is in his career? Or is this booking more about elevating Paddy Pimblett?
So there's been a lot of talk in the MMA community about this Ferguson versus Pimblett fight, and most people seem to think it's all about boosting Paddy Pimblett's reputation. But Cormier is looking at Tony Ferguson's history and the caliber of fighters he's faced throughout his career. Now, there's another angle to this whole thing. Some of his fans argue that this fight puts Paddy Pimblett in a lose-lose situation. If he wins, people might say, well, he beat an old, broken-down fighter. But if he loses, he's taking an L against someone who hasn't won a fight in over 4 years. So, my friend, there's a lot more to this fight than meets the eye. Pereira and Danis team up for Logan Paul fight. Here, it looks like former UFC middleweight champ Alex Pereira is in the mix, helping Dillon Danis train for his upcoming bout against Logan Paul. Now, despite some rumors swirling around, this fight between El Jefe and the Maverick is still on track, and it's happening next month in the UK. And right now, Pereira is putting in some quality time with Dillon Danis in training camp. They've been sharing their prep on social media, giving fans a sneak peek into their grind. And Pereira even talked about this collaboration on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. He mentioned that while he won't be in Dillon Danis's corner for the Logan Paul fight, He's enjoyed working with him and likes what he's seen. So it's all systems go for these guys as they get ready for some big fights.
Ele falou, pô, eu vi no Twitter hoje, né, o Dylan postou, né, tem todo mundo treinando, ele perguntou, falou, é verdade isso aí, né, que eu vi a foto de gente treinando hoje, se aconteceu o treino hoje.
Pô, sim, a gente treinou hoje, né, foi um treino assim mais específico, a gente fez um spy, fizemos 6 rounds, pô, foi um treino bacana, a gente fez aqui na academia do Plínio, foi um treino bacana.
Yeah, it just happened today here in my gym, Plínio here in my gym a few hours ago. Alex did a great training, you know what I mean? He said he enjoyed, was 6 rounds of specific type of sparring, and he was a very nice training.
Was this your first time training with him?
Essa foi a primeira vez que você tá treinando com ele?
Não, tinha treinado uma vez, a gente fez ali, foi mais assim, hoje foi um pouquinho mais pesado, né? A primeira vez que a gente treinou, eu tava meio que lesionado ali, minha perna, e aí, pô, tava com algumas dificuldades, então a gente fez mais posições, e a gente fez um boxe assim um pouquinho mais leve. Hoje a gente fez um pouquinho mais pesado e foi 100% boxe.
No, second time. The first time we trained was a few months ago, but Alex was still recovering from some fights, still a bit injured, so they just did a few positions on the ground, some limited boxing.
He continued, "Today it was boxing. Well, Alex is going to travel now for a few days. Maybe we'll train one more time before the fight because he enjoyed the training. He was able to move a lot and Dylan enjoyed it too. Dylan was able to pick up a lot of stuff today, so it was very good actually." So stay tuned, guys, because it sounds like they're both on the same page and ready to tackle their upcoming challenges soon. Guys, if you're enjoying the video, we'd love your support. Just hit that subscribe button to motivate us to bring you more exciting content. Tony Ferguson's career on the line against Paddy Pimblett. When the Tony Ferguson-Paddy Pimblett matchup was first revealed, it certainly sparked quite the buzz and chatter within the MMA community. However, White said at the Contender Series post-fight press conference on Tuesday night, "If you look at Tony's last few fights that he's fought, he looked damn good before the Chandler finish, and every fight that he's fought on the last 2-3 fights. He looked damn good right until the end. So, it's a fun, interesting fight with 2 fun and interesting characters. While Pimblett's been on fire in the UFC, winning his first 4 fights. But you know what's got everyone talking? His latest victory over Jared Gordon at UFC 282 last December. It was a decision win, and let me tell you, it was controversial. Dana White also mentioned that if Tony Ferguson can't bounce back and beat the Brit, then definitely, it might be time for Ferguson to hang up his gloves. I would let Tony make that decision, but I'm sure if he loses to Paddy, he would probably look at calling it," White said. "He's had a great career, done a lot of things and had a lot of big fights. That would probably be a wrap for him, hopefully. So it's kind of like a make-or-break moment for Ferguson, and it's all riding on this fight with Pimblett. Let's see what will happen next." Dana White labels Mark Hunt as delusional. In the last, we've got some news on a legal saga that's been going on for quite a while. Mark Hunt, you know, the former UFC heavyweight challenger, has been in this legal battle with the UFC and its big boss, Dana White, for 6 years. So Dana White recently talked about this during a press conference, and well, let's just say he didn't seem too bothered by it. He kind of laughed it off and even called Hunt's claims delusional. And then, he dropped the bombshell that Hunt didn't come out on top in this legal tussle. White said in an interview,
I mean, it's never been. Listen, Mark Hunt he's lost so many lawsuits against us, it's insane. He's a bit of a delusional guy. You know, he's going to have to pay some legal fees.
Here, Mark Hunt had filed this lawsuit, basically claiming that Dana White and the UFC knew about some test results but still let him fight at UFC 200. It was a pretty serious accusation, right? But as the legal battle unfolded, it seemed like Hunt couldn't entirely back up his claims with solid evidence, and the courts kept dismissing his case. Lately, a federal judge wiped the slate clean and tossed out all of Hunt's allegations, including battery, fraud, and conspiracy. So, after 6 years of back and forth, that's the end of that. Now, switching gears a bit, Dana White also had some other interesting tidbits to share during a recent press conference. He mentioned that the notorious Conor McGregor might be making a comeback in 2024. So, keep an eye out for that. And speaking of matchups, White also said he'd be open to matching up Michael Chandler with another opponent if he wanted to fight soon. But it seems like Chandler might be holding out for that big McGregor showdown, so we'll see how that unfolds in the future. All right, guys, that's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you at the next one. Until then, goodbye.